Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Ryan O'Leary and Ryan Donovan, to both. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. First thing on the agenda is approval of our minutes from the 17th of October. And apologies for I only sent it out late this afternoon, but it wasn't a very long set of minutes. I've not been doing a great job of giving detailed minutes. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Jay, would you mind giving me sharing permission?
Oh, shit. Hold on. Shoot. That might have just kicked him. Hold on.
For what it's worth, it matches my notes.
Matt, I think you said you wanted co not to be kicked, right?
Exactly. I want to be kicked off the meeting. Could you just kick me off the meeting?
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Right,
thank you.
Long day. Long day.
I'm sure. Yeah. All right. So let me share my meeting. Share. So any discussion or proposed corrections to the minutes? Joe, I think I may have missed. Did you make a comment about the minutes?
It matches my notes.
Okay. All right. So I move that we accept minutes as is.
Second.
Okay. And Joe seconded. We'll go ahead and go around the room. We have we do a roll call vote on these virtual meetings to approve the meeting minutes. And we'll include Orla. I know you weren't involved in the meeting, but I think we need to have you're part of the committee now. So, Joe.
Aye.
Angela.
Aye.
Josh.
Aye.
Orla.
Aye.
And likewise, aye. Okay, so yes. Great. All right, so let's first start off with town technology status updates, especially the IT budget. Basically love for you, Jay, to present and review the proposed budget.
Okay. So I have set up two budgets for the IT department. One is a option with moving servers to the cloud. I think he said something that we'll end up doing all at once, as opposed to the idea I had of spreading it out over the next few years. And one with moving I was just pointing out some of the big items is going to be moving the phone services to Ring Central. Give me 1 second and I will bring up. What I'll do is I'm going to just bring up the one with cloud and just dissect from there. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, let me get back up to you. The top. So there isn't many big changes, I would say. Mostly increases in vendor charges, I would say. It has been a big item over the last couple years, mainly, especially after COVID. It seems like prices just keep on going up for everything. But a lot of these things that are on here currently we have vetted in the past. We have talked about, which is like the antivirus, and antivirus for the workstations and for the servers, our backup support that we pay for currently, the financial management system for the finance department. The payroll management system is just what I pay for Hoppers for when they submit when they do payroll. The permitting system is something that I have. What the town does is they sign a 3-year contract with them. So they given me the pricing for the next 3 years. This year coming up is 35,000, and the next year goes up again by like another 4,000 or 5,000. And I think that the third year is up to close to 40, if not a little bit over. I'd have to pull that up at some point, and I can get that to you guys. Police scheduling software is something that the police department uses for scheduling their officers. Records management request system is Next Request for public records requests. Our Zoom and DocuSign services that we pay for. Duo two-factor authentication. Again, these are just kind of things that we've gone over in the past. Cisco umbrella that I still have in place. Canva is used in the select board's office and some other departments as well, for like when they put things together and put them onto the website, or they're putting them up on social media. And then right below that is what I have for cloud services and for Ring Central. So cloud services, I don't have a solid quote at this moment for migrating everything over, but I've had some conversations with a couple of vendors at this point to kind of get what we have. And the one that I'm still waiting on currently is with our MSP. So they're handling our servers currently. So it kind of makes sense to give them an opportunity to look at it and see what they can get me for pricing. The gentleman I spoke to on the phone didn't really give me any direct, like he didn't want to give me something solid yet until they put all the numbers together, but he kind of gave me some rough ideas of what we were looking at. There's a possibility of up to about 30K upfront cost to get this over to get all of our servers to the cloud, and about roughly $3,000 a month going forward, monthly, to maintain the servers wherever we're. Below that is, I'll go back to that, and I want you guys, obviously, I need questions and answers, whatever we want to talk about there. But below that is Ring Central's cloud phone service. So the company that currently handles our phone systems, Integrated IT, again, I kind of reached out to them and just went over the options that they have, since they know our system inside and out. They've set it up in the past. They were able to get me something fairly quick because they can just pull our numbers right out of the system that they're monitoring currently, and gave me some rough numbers to what that could be. Again, another thing where it's 25K to migrate it over, and about roughly 3,200 plus or minus, depending on how many phones, what types of phones we end up getting, if we have to add new phones, replace phones. So roughly about 32 and change, again, plus or minus a month, maintaining that in the cloud. Now I really want to open up before I move on to contracted services, which again, contracted services is a lot of the same stuff you've seen in the past. But I did want to open the floor to any questions about those two items there.
What about Civic Plus, Jay? Where does that come in?
That comes under contracted services below.
Okay.
That would come below here.
What's the difference between contracted services and above? Like what?
So
Yeah,
I kind of separated them by, like, again, some of these things you can kind of say that they are software, but because I have a contract with some of them, but they're not a physical thing we're using, I consider it a contracted service. And then software, you'll notice a lot of the items are like actual software applications that we're using in some way, which is like the payroll, permitting system, police and scheduling. So things that were tangible that we can actually, people are physically using every day, versus things that are like just being monitored or being backed up in the background, or like our Xerox contract that we have for maintaining our printers in town. I have under contracted services.
So is it licensed software effectively?
Yeah.
Our section.
Yeah.
Do we know what we're paying for phone service today and how that 40,000 compares?
It's definitely an increase. I pay roughly about. I have to look back at the last bill, but I'm pretty sure it was close to $8,000 annually
Okay.
to maintain all of our phones.
And what's the current phone solution?
The current phones are all IP-based phones through Mitel with an on-prem server, and we're contracted with integrated IT to maintain and update the servers for this and maintain any of the switches or any of the phones that go down. Like if any of the Mitel, ShoreTel switches go down, or if the service goes down, I will say 100%. This company has been amazing with making sure that our systems are 100% running all the time. So they've been great.
And what did you say the company's name was? Sorry, I missed that.
It's integrated IT.
Okay.
So on the police scheduling software DTS, is this the similar one to the ESO solutions that is being that the FD was also using, and the FD is talking about like they want a contemporary solution that goes with the PD and the FD in the same hand in hand. Is it?
I don't believe so. This is very tailored to the police department, and what they do for their scheduling. I don't believe they work hand in hand. I would have to have a conversation separately to see if what they're talking about specifically, but as far as I know, how they use this, it works with like when they're doing overtime, when they're doing, like when they have to do stand on the side of the road because of construction or detailing is what I'm trying to say.
So
Detailing.
it is more like it gets into their billing also, and
Yeah,
billing.
exactly. Yeah.
It was something similar of a conversation I had with Chief Achilles, but that he wants also a solution that comes like with the PD and FD at the same time. But I've not been able to meet Chief Newell yet because I'm scheduling. So let's see what can go up there. Yeah.
Okay.
Good to know this. That's a good point.
Okay. So,
Question about Ring Central. It's been a long time since I've looked at unified communication services, but looking at the latest Magic Quadrant from Mark Gartner, seems like Microsoft is trying to make a play here with Teams and somehow integrating Teams and IP phones. Is that accurate that they have a solution?
I've heard that. I'm not sure how well it would work with what we currently have as a platform. I'm not pushing it away in any way or form, but as for cost effectiveness, utilizing what we currently have in place, and especially with the amount of phones we would have to purchase if we do have to switch. Again, I don't know the details about how Microsoft works or integrates with what we currently have in place. This was just, again, another cost-effective way of doing it, where we didn't have to upgrade every single phone. We only have to, only so many of them had to be upgraded. I can look into the Microsoft option and see if it's something that it works well with what we currently have in place. But it was just it was just a quick option for us to discuss it and see what else is out there as well.
Yeah. I think my question is, I definitely don't want to replace all of our phones.
Yeah.
But could our phones work with whatever?
Yeah,
I'm
not 100% sure with what Microsoft does. I know Teams, you can make phone calls with it, right? You can connect it to you can have Teams on your cell phone and use Teams right from there. Because we use our phone system for not just offices, it's also associated with PD and FD. It might not be the best fit for what we're trying to do. It might be something I have to research more, see if maybe other FD and PDs out there are using something like that. But for what we're using it for, I don't believe it would be the good fit. But again, I'll just research some more and see what we can find. So,
Jade, the cloud service costs, does that assume full scope of implementation, or what was your thought and timing for that?
For which one again? I'm sorry.
For the cloud services?
Okay, yeah. So It would be all of our servers that we currently have in place. Again, I have not been too keen on moving everything all at once. Not because I don't like us moving to the cloud, but there are other options that we could have available in moving to the cloud in a cost-effective way. What I mean by that is 5 of those servers are pertain to the police department and the fire department. Now, if anything happens in the next 5 years where, you know, they end up doing regional or something where we end up moving all of our services to Central Square, if we're paying an upfront cost now of 30 or so or whatever it could be to move those servers now into the cloud, and then 3 years or 2 years from now we decide to move it all to Central Square anyway, which is now another migration fee that we're paying to move those over to Central Square. I don't believe that that's the most cost-effective way of doing this. I think the best way would be to wait until we figure out what we could do with Central Square, and then look with what their options are, figure out what their cost is going to be to migrate, and then do it at that point. But again, I want to at least put all the cards on the table and see, what's your take on it. I know Orly, I know you were not there for our last discussion, but we did talk about a plan in moving things over to the cloud. But I know the select board has been very, focused on me getting to the cloud. And I also just want to make sure like I said, all the options are out there so everybody can see what it's going to be for us to get to that point.
What are the questions or comments that people have?
Wow. I was hoping you guys had a lot more questions about cloud.
Well, so I
You
would
want
love
us
to.
that way, Jay? Do you want us?
If you want questions, we can give them. Yeah, I'd love. I mean, it seems like there's a placeholder for 80,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, love. I assume there's some sort of back of the napkin calcs that go behind that, number of servers, etc., size of servers.
Yeah.
And I didn't fully catch it. Does that include the cost, the one-time upfront cost for migration, or not, or just the ongoing?
That's what I have in there is is at least 30K buffer. If not, again, it's plus or minus. I'm going by what it was just a discussion. I don't have anything in ink. But yeah, it would be that, and then it would end up becoming another, 30 plus K annually for the servers to be maintained on the cloud service. So there's a lot of, one question I have for the MTC as a whole, and I'd like to have I would like to kind of solidify my thought process on this is I know that there's a lot of benefits to being in the cloud, especially if like a server goes down, having someone replace that automatically, never having to worry about that kind of stuff. But as far as I know, the cloud is no more secure than having them on-prem if you have the right security in place. Now, that's the question I want feedback on, because in my mind, and from talking to other individuals about this, there's like a red target when it comes to the cloud places, and it's like that's the place they want to penetrate first. So I'm not sure if there's any security reasons to why it would be beneficial besides the cost effectiveness going forward, as far as not having to purchase servers or having that redundancy in place if something goes wrong. So just feedback on that I'd like to get from you guys.
So, are you talking about the cyber threat in terms of security itself?
Yeah.
Then yes, that is real, but going to the cloud and kind of what kind of service that we are going to get, what kind of subscription level we have, it will be important. We can implement solutions which are better than what we can do at on-prem level setups at this point. The second important thing is we are not physically hosting. And that's a second, if someone kicks a rack off right now by mistake also, we lose something. So that's a pretty much a possibility. And I was talking to, like, when looking at the FD scenario, chief was showing me that our servers that there at the fire department and the police department building, and yeah, we have a good server room, but that's where our emergency system for the town is actually located without a backup at this point, if I'm correct. And if literally there's a fire in that room, where do we go? So yeah, that is
No, again, that I 100%. That 100%.
Jay, I think you're going to get varied opinions here with that sort of broad swath of questioning. As a matter of fact, I am 100% in line with your synopsis as well. Sure, you can pay for whatever someone will sell you in regards to the buzzword of security and cybersecurity in terms of a host, a cluster, a data set, wherever you want to put it. I guess the question that I wanted to lead into was how many physical sockets are you migrating from the town into a quote unquote cloud service?
I'd have to pull that up for you. I can look it up for you, Ryan, and get it to you.
Yeah, basically number of virtual CPUs that are being migrated. Yeah.
Like how I just am sorry to come into a cold, but I would want to wrap my head around the size of your migration.
Yeah.
The size of the South Borough's migration is going to discuss whether you're going pure cloud, hybrid cloud, or if on-prem is actually the right solution for the town. Because your buildings are all fiber connected anyway. If you want to talk about like redundancy, failover, fault tolerance, I'm a little envious as to the options that you've got. So
even with that, in reality, sorry to cut you off, cloud for physical security and redundancy is far more redundant. I mean, maybe we have dual redundancy. Every cloud data center out there has armed guards at it, and they have man traps, and they have audit logs, and the physical security is much better in terms of the physical security. Also, the redundancy of power, redundancy of generators, redundancy of UPS, redundancy of routing connections. So at least on that side, in terms of availability and integrity, and for example, pretty much every cloud service out there, when they offer a block storage, like Elastic Block Storage from Amazon, EBS, every block is written to 3 separate spindles in 3 different geos. So you could have, and I understand we have a cluster right now, we have a hyper-converged infrastructure, and we are writing the 3 different spindles, but those spindles are on the same rack. So as opposed to spindles written in separate racks, separate availability zones, or redundancy. So, but to your point, Ryan, fully agreed. We need to look at what the requirements are and compare the pros and cons.
And we are currently, and again, goes back to repurposing, reacquiring hardware if hardware failed or was burned or something like that. But all of our servers are currently backed up with not only it's through a Cronus all cloud solution with at least copies that I can get on prem as well. So I mean, the redundancy is in place in case something major did happen. Just adding to your point about at least having the redundancy in place.
So in that comparison, we would need to compare what level of the backup software ultimately would we be deprecating if we could just simply do cloud native snapshots, to cold storage, and basically move to a cloud native solution as opposed to agent-based solution, which is what we're currently using. So, yeah.
Any other questions on that first portion?
Just the placeholder there for the 80,000, is it fitting well with the roadmap that we discussed last time in a few meetings back, perhaps for the cloud migration that we had for some for next year, some for the one after? So is it fitting the requirement of the roadmap for next year?
I'm sorry. I guess I'm confused by your question. Can you ask that one more time?
Yeah, we discussed it in the previous meeting or the one before that when we had physically met about the cloud migration plan for the town. We want to stage it off. So is this 80,000 kind of taking care of only the items that are at the top of the list for next year itself, or is it more inclusive of multiple years down the roadmap?
Yeah, so this would be more the quick everything goes now solution,
Okay.
not the staggered approach that I had presented to you guys.
Got it.
And what I'm saying is I wanted to at least put this on the table so people can understand what it's going to be up front for a cost in a sense until I get, again, I need to get more hard numbers here, but I wanted to at least put that out there as another thing in case, in case it comes from someone that that's what you guys want us. That's what either the MTC suggests I do and the select board wants me to do. But my plan is for me to, take the staggered approach and move these things to the cloud because, again, as I said in the beginning, I believe it is the most cost effective way of doing it instead of having to pay. For all I know, like I said, if we move everything to Central Square for the PD stuff and the FD items, then we don't have to pay almost like double paying for migration costs. So that migration costs would be far less if I have less servers that are going to the cloud.
So Jay,
Okay.
what would the cost this coming year be then if you took that approach?
If I took, it would be just right now. It would be if I remove the cloud service, it would just be doing the 25,000 upfront cost to pay the phone system to the cloud, and then have the annual cost for that phone system. That would eliminate one of our on-prem servers.
Got it. So then the only thing in scope this coming year you're saying would be the phone service.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So Jay, it's more like you want to keep this placeholder so that if we go above more than the phone, we have something.
Yeah, exactly. We just an alternative option in case the powers that be decide they want me to go a different direction. So I want to at least have that option available.
Yeah, to me, it represents like a ceiling option, like an estimate ceiling. So it's good to have that in hand.
Exactly. Yep. Any other questions about the top portion there? Okay. Again, below that is contracted services. As I said earlier, I have what's been budgeted since I started so far is programs and security miscellaneous. It's just for me to do my annual pen testing or network town assessments. I have that in place so that I can do that annually. The MSP is in there now, managed service provider with, like I said, with the Xerox company that I'm working with. That is the annual cost we're paying for that. The copier maintenance, it's for all of the copiers in town for the ink, for the maintenance of the printers. And that's about roughly 21,000. We did get a new printer this year for the building department. That was an aged, almost 9-year-old Xerox printer that was literally sounding like a choo-choo train when it started up. So we had to get something else in there for them because they do a lot of heavy printing in there. And oh yeah, there it is right there. There's the integrated IT solutions. That's the IP phones that we currently have in place. It's $8,000 right there, the annual fee. Civic Plus, we have domain registration with exact hosting. The maintenance for our firewalls. ET File is a filing system that the accounting department was using to back up the packets for each billing period. I can't remember what it's called right now, but that's been in there for quite some time before my time. Page Freeze is the social media backup solution that we have for any Facebook, Twitter, X, sorry, accounts that we have in town. They're all backed up for any type of public records request or something that comes up. They need to look back at anything. We have that there. The email filtering and archiving is enabled. That price has increased as well. Exchange Online, Gov Connection is where I purchased my licensing. And again, this number is going up. And this number is going up because we are constantly creating new committees in town that require an email address. So the more committees we build up, the more licenses I'm going to need every year for the committee members. So that's come up to about 52,000 for the coming year.
Jay, is that the Microsoft cost exchange online? Okay.
Yep, Microsoft Office 365. It's the whole package. Exchanges online and all of that. We have the Azure hybrid approach for Exchange. So yeah, that includes all that and support.
Hey, when we did the website project, we had talked about potentially having their professional services come back and maybe do, just some work around, key pieces of feedback from users of the website, just a little refresh on anything that maybe didn't get taken care of in the initial migration. Is that money that we need to make sure is in here somewhere? Or are we still able to take that out of ARPA?
I'm not sure if we're able to take it out of ARPA at this point. I'd have to confirm that. But let me look at the cost for Civic Plus, the annual. If it's exactly 10,000, and see if I have somewhere I can. Again, I don't know how much work we would be looking to do.
I think we had like 5,000 set aside initially for additional file conversions and, basically just that for them to help with any, things that came up. So I don't know, maybe if it's just bumping that number up slightly so that we have a little bit of room in there if we want to bring them back for something.
Yeah, I can do something like that there. Again, it all has to be approved anyway going down the line, but I can at least put it in there for asking purposes. And below, oh, actually, I did I put in there? Did I look at? Sorry if you hear my dogs crying. They just like crying. Oh, software GIS. The GIS, I forgot to talk about this in the top. It's just looking at the annual costs. That number is showing 17.9 right now, and that was including what we had for our past GIS software. Our current annual is probably going to be about 3,400, but there's also money in there for Esri as well. So I just wanted to point that out up there for the GIS line. I completely forgot to mention that. And then employee training seminar is the same here for 4,000. In-state travel, data communications is for both our Verizon and is not Comcast. It's Spectrum. And I'll have to change that in there. And then computer supplies, it's just default monitor, keyboards, anything like that I need. I have that in there. And then replacement equipment is currently at 43,000, and that's for everybody in town. That's police, fire, library, also network equipment if anything fails. But that's in there as well. Any other questions? Oh yeah, and that's the bottom line number with cloud in there.
Okay, what's the replacement cycle for devices?
At least every 3 years.
So that's what the 40K is assuming with the rotation.
Yeah, and if it's again and at least having one on hand in case something goes down, laptop crashes, or desktop crashes. I always like to have one on hand in case something like that happens.
Jason, in my discussions with the fire chief, it was that the workstations that they're using, he wanted like 2 or 3 updates, or like 2 workstations at least going for an upgrade every year. So he's looking at that at least as an expectation. One of the thoughts there is that why are we only limiting it to a workstation and kind of a fixed scenario? Have we looked at like a laptop with a docking scenario so that it can be a bit more motion kind of something? Because right now it's more fixed, and if the crew changes and they cannot take it out to a mobile, like for a service, for an emergency service. That was one of the things.
So, unless I've been told otherwise, and I'll check in with the chief as well. Anybody who is mobile has a laptop.
Yeah.
That's like lieutenants, like the chief obviously has one. Even the administrator in the front, she has one if she has to be remote for something. Excuse me. And also in the police department, the same way. If they are a, if they're a lieutenant, or if they're wow, I can't think of the name right now. Even the detective has a laptop. Anybody who is mobile is going to have a laptop. The desktops are mainly for a lot of the, especially in the fire department. It's a lot of the firemen that are in and out. They just do
The profiling scenarios.
Yeah. They have. That's why we have some workstations set up for them so they can do their trainings. If they have trainings that come up, if they have to do a Zoom webinar or something like that, they can do that. Same thing over in PD side. If they need to submit a report, they have a desktop so they can do that. But anyone who needs a mobile device, I make sure that they have that. And again, if I'm missing one, I will definitely check in with the chief, because I always like to make sure that they're ready to go and do their job at all times. But yeah, that's how I've been setting it up, and it seems to be working so far. And if there's other feedback, let me know. I'll definitely reach out to the chief and talk with him. But that's kind of
the people that are mobile. Do they have docking stations?
Yes, absolutely. Docking stations, monitors, mouse, keyboard, portable chargers to bring with them if they need to go anywhere else. And there's laptops in each one of the police cars as well. So they have a laptop in each police car that's mobile with them when they're driving.
Where is here is SurveyMonkey?
What was that?
SurveyMonkey, is that captured in your budget, Ian?
I believe it's under. It might be on the miscellaneous. I do have it.
But it's in there. Okay.
Yeah, I do have it in my budget. So don't worry, it's there.
Great, thank you. Go.
When you were mentioning, Jay, licensing under the Microsoft 360 kind of packaging and it going up, one of the things that came up in conversations with Capital is because they intersect with so many committees, they're always relying on somebody who has like an access to a SharePoint license to host files, or else they're going back to the 90s, mailing files all around. Is there anything budgetarily limiting there, or is this more of a user education thing, or should we just make sure that there's more like committee chair licenses for this, so it's not just tied to whatever number is?
So the license that I provide them, I believe it's a G1 license, and that provides them with Office 365 online. What we do internally is, because our licenses have the ability for obviously SharePoint, for OneDrive, all of that, we share folders with anyone that requests some type of shareable document. So, example, Jason Malinowski on capital planning. I know for a fact that there's a folder out there that either Brian has created or one of them that I have worked with them to make sure that they know how to share that folder with them, so they can drop files inside of there back and forth, whether it's Excel documents, Word documents, whatever. So they do have that capability. They would just have to see it on OneDrive. The OneDrive online version. But they have that capability to create a file, save it inside of that folder, and get it to us internally, and go and pretty much be able to collaborate with that document in and out.
Okay, well, I'll circle back to him, because he did raise the thing about existing license holders having to host, and that it was creating friction in some of their work. So I'll circle back to him.
And again, it goes by each tier licensing is just the one that I give out is, like I said, is the least expensive one, but the G3 ones are the most expensive ones. So again, if we want to have a higher budget just on G3 licenses, and that's something that we can talk about. But I believe that the options are in place currently for them to at least share documents back and forth and collaborate on documents.
The budget for cloud, is that inclusive of potential OneDrive storage capacity if we were to migrate file services over to OneDrive?
No, that's not. So OneDrive is its own cost, and the SharePoint portion of it is all part of the Exchange budgeting price. The the servers that I have there are just the servers that. So right now,
the non-file server, it's not including the like migrating the file servers. Would we have capacity on our current OneDrive subscription to migrate? I'm not saying we want to do this, but if we wanted to, sometime in fiscal year 25, migrate from the on-prem file server to OneDrive, do we have capacity in OneDrive, or would we need to purchase that?
we have 6 terabytes of available data with OneDrive.
And how much are we currently using on our on-prem file server?
On our on-prem, it's about close to a terabyte. It's about 800 and change, 850 or so, I think it is.
Okay, so there shouldn't be any issue with.
No.
Okay.
And I've actually started the process with a couple departments and transitioning some things with using SharePoint and Teams and OneDrive all together. So it's like you kind of just log into your Teams and you can see your files in there and everything. So that's what I've been doing currently.
That's awesome.
Trying to migrate as much as I can off of there.
Yeah, I love your strategy. Basically doing a department.
Yeah,
department.
exactly.
Easier to train a limited group of people with their workflows. Yeah.
Yep. See how it works. And if, especially with, I don't want to mess with departments like finance because if a number is off in one end and it comes crunch time, I don't want the complaining. So I'm limiting to who I'm using it with right now. But it's been working out so far, so good. Knock on some wood.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about the proposed budget?
Jay, you said this was the ceiling. Did you want to provide at least the number comparison for what the non-ceiling was?
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see that. Let me know if you can.
Ooh, we don't see anything different than you showing before.
You see that?
Yeah.
All right. So that's the main difference there. Actually, I'm sorry. That's FY25. Yeah, 661 is the main difference there versus the it was 741.
It's about 80K difference.
Percentage. What's the percentage change from last budget?
Yeah, 1 second. I'm gonna put this one here. Yes, it's sorry, I just know it's in here somewhere. Oh, here it is. So with this one here, it's a 17% difference. With
17% increase from last year.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then the other one was with cloud.
And it looks like the majority is software.
Yeah. Yep. And it's 31% increase with the cloud.
Because cloud is included in that software line.
What was that? I'm sorry.
So line 21 seems to be the big delta, right? So
yeah. And yep. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a lot of that is with Exchange. being the biggest culprit. Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you so much, Jay, for walking us through this.
Yep.
I think it would be appropriate. I mean, this is one of our things as part of the mandate for the MDC to show our supports or concern with the budgets. And we, of course, we like to be able to go to town meeting and being unified with Jay and being supportive of Jay and say that we have reviewed it and we voted on it and it looks good. What are the committee members' thoughts on cloud versus not cloud? I have my own opinion, but I want to get everybody's thoughts on that. You know, which should we be supportive of, both, one or the other, etc.
I'm definitely supportive of trying to get to the cloud as aggressively as we can. What concerns me is getting the money all approved up front and then perhaps having departments that aren't ready to go or software that's not cloud ready yet. I mean, I think we've just got to make sure that if we do get the money, we're in a position to really do the work. And Jay, I don't know if you feel like if we got the money, we'd be good to go and we can get everybody on board, but it's a lot to move over in 1 year.
Other thoughts?
I agree. I believe it is a lot to do in 1 year because there's a lot of moving pieces in place to get there. This is why my initial approach was, doing the 5-year staggered approach. It could be less than 5 years, but at least a staggered approach in moving this, not only for the amount of work it would take to get to that point, but as I said before, just being fiscally responsible in doing something like this. Because if we're double paying for migrating things that we'll end up just moving to the cloud anyway in 2 years, again, I'm not saying this in any rude way. It's not my tax money. I don't live in Southborough, but if it was my tax, to me, it just
I guess
seems like it's the fiscally responsible thing to do, but also as far as the amount of work it's going to be, yeah, it would be very overwhelming to move a lot of that all at once.
Okay, one concern here that has to be addressed is that if we are earmarking all this 80,000 for that, and if we are not able to move the services this year, and we maybe go at it in coming 1 year or 2 years time frame, will the cost of services change and that 80,000 does not become valid anymore, and that estimate or the ceiling that we set has to be raised? So that has to be taken into consideration, that the cost of services today that we want to migrate, is there if there is a breakdown of what goes into that 80,000 and what can move up and down as year over year scenario, that would be saying that, okay, the phones are the only, I'll say, viable item right now, which we know that can happen in this year. If all the others don't happen in the year, then how is that 80,000 minus the phones going to get projected over these 3 to 4 years? And what is the delta that's going to come to the town each year for maybe when we do this thing again next year or maybe the year after that?
One piece to that, especially when it comes to the cost part, is to me what happens with public safety. If we move everything to Central Square, I don't know how much their pricing is moving up or down, right? So that's the biggest question mark, is how does that move? I don't know. I've never worked with it. I've never really spoken to them as far as knowing how that fluctuates. But it is a service that they provide, and that cost is going to come up at some point anyway with migrating that. So whether or not this quote that I have in place here for moving all of the servers over fluctuates. If I'm moving it to Central Square, that number doesn't necessarily matter the same as much as it's going to be what Central Square gives me back for a quote.
Go.
Yeah, well, similar to Central Square, didn't we still have the open issue about was it Patriot not having their full SaaS system ready until like 2027? I think was
Yeah.
the year. And so it sounds like there are vendor issues that are blocks for kind of setting us up to have to stagger.
Assessor Pro is definitely an application that rolled out this year. That hopefully by next year they have more of a solid foundation on. But yeah, that is another question about how they're going to handle it.
Yeah, I think the general theme here is we do as a town have a preference to move towards SaaS as opposed to just infrastructure virtual migration to the cloud. It's certainly simpler, better maintenance, etc. if you move towards SaaS. And basically what Jay is saying is if the vendor is coming up very shortly here in a couple of years and releasing their own SaaS service, then why go to the effort upfront at cost expense to migrate just a virtual machine to a virtual machine if we're going to end up doing another migration to a SaaS service? So, and I agree with that. So, yeah, I'd love to. Sorry, go ahead, Orla.
Yeah, no, and I'm just obviously catching up and trying to piece it together. Because I think, for me, my reaction feels like 1 year to get it all done saying is super aggressive. And it seems like there's a bunch of open questions as well as just even what's the cost benefit, and then do we know what the operating model needs to be in the cloud to say that we could successfully execute that. On the other hand, 5 years seems too long, so it feels like it's somewhere in the middle. But what that looks like and what's the right sequencing, I guess, isn't clear to me right now. And therefore, then how does that turn into a cost envelope for this coming year? I don't know. And I don't know if I need to know, or that's more, Jay, for you to figure out. But I guess that it's just not clear, at least to me right now.
I think the no cloud option you list, Jay, that doesn't mean no cloud. It means there's only fewer services. Like, for example, the no cloud option, does it include the phone system?
The no cloud includes the phone system. Yeah, and when I say no cloud, I mean literally moving all of our physical servers to the cloud. Because we're paying for a lot of services, as I just went over in my budget, that are cloud, right? The next request is a SaaS, right? That the permitting service, that's something that we pay for, that's in the cloud. The financial services that we use, that's in the cloud. Office 365, that's in the cloud. So we already have a lot of services in place that are in the cloud. So it's just getting the rest, the stragglers at this point, to that place. And that's where, having those conversations with public safety and figuring out how we can take those 4 to 5 servers and just get them out there. And then the remaining ones, like the Assessor Pro, and now we're working on, trying to get the phone system out there and the file server, migrating that stuff to cloud through Office 365. So there's, the things that the wheels are in motion. We already have a footprint in the cloud. It's just getting the stragglers into that place.
Yeah. So I'm inclined to propose we vote on the lower of the options of the budget, which is not doing a full bang migration of everything to the cloud next year, but effectively it's more of the piecemeal approach, little by little, and towards the strategic goal over time of getting everything in the cloud. I'm not saying we're not moving everything to the cloud. We're just saying we don't feel it's appropriate to do it next year for multiple reasons, for cost, for preparedness, etc. Does that seem reasonable to everybody to vote on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I propose we vote on, we support Jay's budget for the, you call it no cloud, but it's the lower of the budget's options for the FY25 budget. Any seconds?
Seconded.
Okay, I think I heard Yash first. I'm taking notes here, sorry. Just a second. Okay, let's go around the committee to vote. Joe,
Aye.
Angela,
Aye.
Yash,
Aye.
Orla,
I,
and likewise, aye. Thank you, Jay, for putting this together and sharing it with us. I know we're running low on time. Just really quickly, next agenda item, review recent website feedback. So it's great we now have integration with the town website for feedback, as well as the senior center. And we've received one feedback response on the main website, 5 stars, 5 stars. And one feedback on the senior center, also 5 stars. So nobody's complaining. So I think this is good. The purpose of this, we will review in future MTC meetings, feedback requests. If there's problems, we'll prioritize them, etc. So Jay, if you do receive feedback from any individual or groups, just refer them to that link and we will review them appropriately. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Joe, do you have a comment?
Question, Matt. Is that feedback doing as we had discussed before? Is that the statistical prompting, or is that people seeking out the feedback link?
Either one. Either one. It supports both. I think we're just doing statistical prompting. Would you like to provide feedback of like 1 to 5% of the users? Do a pop up. But we also of course have a link at the bottom, the footer of the pages. If somebody is seeking it, they can. So I'm guessing these were kicked off by the statistical prompting, and somebody decided to give feedback and 5 stars. So yeah. All right. User journey collection analysis. Thank you, Jay, for sharing some details on the Google Analytics. I had not yet looked at it. I will, but appreciate that.
And again, Matt, if you want to come in at some point and kind of see it in person and click around in some of the reports and stuff, let me know. We can schedule something and go over it.
I will take you up on an offer. I'll contact you offline and Jay to review. That would be awesome. Thank you. Okay. Auto failover to secondary ISP. Is that still in progress, or is it in place?
It's still in progress only because there's, as I had stated in past MTC meetings, there's a lot of networking things that need to be fixed. And that's what I've already known, and the MSP pointed out, and I said, yeah, I know. So they're working with me to kind of get some of those things tweaked out, and then we already have the firewall set up and ready. Once we get those switches reconfigured and pointing the right way, we'll be good. But it's not a question at this point.
Staffing and managed services, is that in your budget, basically a proposed net new, or is it the existing managed service provider that we're using? What is
The existing managed service provider that's in there currently. That's in there.
Yeah. Included in budget. Okay. Let's switch quickly over to the schools. Thanks, Ryan O'Leary, for joining us. If you're prepared, we'd love to review the administrative portion of the school tech budget, or share what you're thinking about. Yeah.
I mean, I hate to disappoint you, but I'm prepared to share with you that it's still in the preliminary stages to be approved sometime in mid to late January. I can speak to any generalities or any questions that you might have that I've budgeted for the schools of Southborough. Sure, please feel free to shoot.
Do you have a sheet that you could share with us for review?
Not that I can share at this time, not until it's finalized.
Okay. We would like to work with you. We can discuss offline, but we'd like to, in future years, we'd love to work with you in ideally creating the budgets, and that's part of our bylaw, is to review basically the strategy before the budget is finalized, so we can opine on it at town meeting, either supporting it or not, but we can discuss offline.
Sure.
In general, are there any big ticket items that are changes, basically,
no big changes. Really just more of a historical kind of glacial shift from pulling out of sort of the opposite in the town spectrum. SASs and a lot of services and budget clean out and moving more towards reinvesting in the student experience, student devices, complete refresh of teacher old machines. They had been on an 8 or 9 year replacement cycle. Coming up next season is the next half of getting everybody refreshed PCs.
Are you shortening the replacement cycle, or is it?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It was some of those have gone on for far too long. They should have been retired, well, 5 or 6 years ago. I'd say that's where the major spend is going to be in the Southborough Schools. IT budget is going to be on the student and staff devices. Absolutely.
And what is the typical for the student devices? Those are all Chromebooks, is that correct?
They are. For the most part, the Neary School, off the top of my head, I can't name you which particular grade it was, but historically, the students, when rising through the Southborough Schools, in pre-K and K and 1 were issued classroom iPads and carts. As soon as they hit grade 2 and 3, they were moved over to Chromebooks. And then one of the grades, I believe in Neary, they were switched back to iPads. And then boom, next grade on back to Chromebooks. It made sense at one time. We sort of eliminated that, relegated the newer iPads that can be used back down to the K in the pre-K kids, and have fleshed out the Neary School with a study line of Chromebooks. I might be foregoing it, but in terms of the replacement cycle and tying that all in now, we've got a replacement cycle and a refresh cycle for the student devices where we estimate about a 3.72 year life on each student device, and are now issuing, in regards to Southborough, students new Chromebooks starting in grade 5 that they'll take up to grade 8, and then in grade 2 currently, while we get grade 1 migrated away from the older iPads and into Chromebooks. So every 3.9 rounded up to 4 years, every student's going to get issued a new Chromebook to take through their studies too.
You happen to know which side of the school system, Northborough, Southborough, treats their Chromebooks better?
I do. And we can take that offline too.
Okay.
I know
okay.
it.
Okay. I know I shouldn't have asked. Okay. Any other questions for Ryan? Okay. So it sounds like there's no major changes, like you're not going to be doubling the number of Wi-Fi hotspots or, some significant change.
Is the cost, Ryan, or the budget estimate similar to last year?
I've asked for a bit of an increase. Off the top of my head, I want to say I've put in for between 14 and 18% increase in Southborough. And that's strictly to support the student devices and the staff device refreshes.
Okay.
No luxuries. I'm not there yet.
And what's the portion of cost that hits Southborough roughly? So when we say 18% increase, that's 18% increase on what number?
Strictly Southborough's public school budget.
And is that $10, $50K? Just what's the amount roughly, like from last year? I was just curious if you had it off the top of your head.
I want to say about 35.5K.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions?
Now I'm going to pull in my calculator, Orla. Sorry.
No, yeah. So that's a very, 15% sounds a lot, but when you say it on 35K, then it's not. It's like the price of a laptop.
It's monetarily, it is not a very large increase in terms of the ask for the support. Yes, percentage wise, it is. It's
yeah.
I would love to discuss at some point in time. We don't have to take time. We're running low in time tonight, but now that we have redundant fiber in place in Southborough, or I shouldn't say redundant fiber because it's, I think, fiber and cable. Is that right, Jay?
Yeah.
Redundant ISPs and fiber.
Fiber.
Do we, at some point in time, do we want to discuss providing connectivities to the schools that the fiber run, at least the ones that it runs in front of, like Woodward? Is that, yeah.
So just in a brief conversation, I had looked up the possibility of the vendor that had done the Southborough migration, which I believe was Contract, as well as seeing if there were any municipal compact grants that could be applied for. But I see that, and I'm also curious too if anybody in the committee was present back in 2019. It seems as though Southborough took advantage of the municipal community compact grant to get those buildings fibered, but the schools were nixed, left out of that. I don't know if anybody here was around back then, had any legacy insight as to why my team got ignored, or if we're all just starting fresh and trying to figure out how to get.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
I think it predated. I think it predated everybody when you and I talked about that, because it was like, gosh, we can't even afford the laterals. We were talking about maybe for the town survey, tick box here if you want to give $1 towards building laterals to the school.
I had a feeling that it sort of predated everybody's here's, decisions or experience. So I guess that's an answer I'm not going to find. So I am moving forward. I am moving on, but I am interested too if I can get a chance to get through this budget season and see what Contract comes back with in terms of extending those runs. My biggest concern was Finn, which is out in the middle of nowhere, and honestly, I'm prepared to just let it set sail and drift off into the sunset as that building that's just way out there in the woods. But Jay had told me that there is the Southborough Art Center, I believe, is actually pretty close to it, which might even be helpful in getting Finn set up in a cost-effective way. So
yeah, do we have fiber going to the South Union building right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the art center. You guys all call it something different. It is the art center. Recreation is right. Yeah, so where recreation and the youth and family services are, yes, fiber is there. Correct. And it runs right. There's a street that it runs by that's real close to the school. That it shouldn't take too much to pull in that direction.
Yeah. So yeah, Ryan, in the future, we put this out. We should have a little powwow with Jay and map out and get a quote from a vendor, see what it would take to kind of connect it up. And I think the MDC would be very supportive of that and getting the budget necessary for that. Ultimately, it's going to save budget, maybe a long time, but if anything, it provides the students better connectivity and faster connectivity and more redundant, reliable connectivity.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just in terms of the cost savings and on ISP will build up after a few years as well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any final questions for Ryan? Okay. So I think once the school committee reviews and approves that, I think we'll come back in January or February and review it ourselves. All right. No, we're running low on time. Let's move. I think we do want to move. We do want to have a portion. We have about 20 minutes left. I do want to move to executive session to discuss security posture review, network architecture, segmentation, etc. So I think it's appropriate that we do so now. The purpose for the executive section under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, purpose number 4, to discuss the deployment of security personnel or devices or strategies with respect thereto. And also, as we noted, that we will be adjourning from executive session. So
Matt, do we need to check in? I see Ryan Donovan on. Do we need to check in on the library tech or no?
Ryan's a member of the committee.
Okay.
But it is library tech, and I did report basically last time on. I synced up with Ryan on needs. And from my understanding, Ryan, there's not any major changes for this next year. We're the budget's going to be reserved for building a better library and maybe getting some decent lights, switches.
Yeah, the only thing that really I can contribute tonight is, because I haven't followed up with you, Matt, but we did work with our vendor and we have the website feedback survey. is now on the library's website as well. So that was integrated quite a while ago, and I just forgot to mention it. So it's nice because now every member of the committee is here. So that's, if you go to the library's new website, it's right in the middle bottom of that area. But yeah, Orla, we're kind of doing the same stuff next year that we've been doing, and then the focus is really going to be on talking about kind of the building overall and about adding more space. And then Jay and I have already had some preliminary conversations about what sort of infrastructure for technology we're going to need long term. We're hoping to kind of have a synergistic union of those two things if the town wants to add more space to the library, which I'm hopeful that they will.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and move into executive session. We need to do so by roll call vote. I move that we move into executive session. Any seconds?
Seconded.
Okay. Okay, let's go around the room with a vote. Joe,
Aye.
Angela,
Aye.
Orla,
Aye.
Yash,
We good?
Yash.
Aye.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that. Okay, likewise, aye. Okay, we're good to stop recording and move to the executive session.
So I'm not-